Welcome to another episode of the FWOT Show. I'm your host, Rob Steele. That's Jesus Jones in the background, and this is the show that lets you know that it's not just you. The world has actually lost its collective mind, as evidenced by a pastor in Zimbabwe. Yeah, we're going to Zimbabwe, who says that he has a direct phone line to God himself. God visited him in the night and said, "Here's my direct line in case you need anything." And now the pastor uses his cell phone during his services to call God and ask questions. No, seriously. That's his claim. And when asked why God doesn't give his phone number out to more people, the theory is that God doesn't like telemarketers because they're all really the work of Satan. Okay, I made up the telemarketer bit. But seriously, a phone line to God? Uh-huh. Put him on speakerphone. More great news from United Airlines. But this time it's a little bit different. This past week, there was a flight from Newark, New Jersey to Shanghai. That is a long flight. When there was an unexpected layover in San Francisco because a passenger wearing a Make America Great Again hat had to be removed from the plane because he had a thing about calling some passengers evil lesbians and Hillary lovers, and yeah, he just had to go. So, this episode of the FWOT Show is brought to you by United Airlines. Hey, we'll get it right eventually. It's the end of May and time for all these schools to start sending out graduating classes, including Notre Dame. This past week, Notre Dame had its massive graduating class, and they decided to get a commencement speaker because that's what you do. So who did they get? Vice President Mike Pence. 1,700 plus alumni signed a petition saying, "Why did you get him? He is not in the least bit appropriate for our class." Well, they got him anyway. And as soon as he started to speak, a majority of Notre Dame's graduating class got up and left. Good on you, Notre Dame. Tragedy happened earlier this week when Ariana Grande's now inappropriately named Dangerous Woman tour had a show in Manchester, England, and as people were leaving the arena after the show, some dork with a bomb blew himself up and killed 22 people. Now, the motivation behind this is currently unknown. I know I'm not a fan, but her music isn't that bad, so that's probably not it. But the way it's being handled on this side of the pond is not the best. Let's start with Donald Trump, who called the attacker an evil loser. That's a quote. Evil loser. What? Are you 8 years old? Seriously, that's what you're calling him? Yes, the man is an evil loser. Grow up. And there were not much better responses from the rest of his staff. Ann Coulter immediately called for a ban on Muslims. Did we know it was a Muslim? Do we know now that it's a Muslim? Just let's jump to conclusions. Yes, because America wins the gold medal in that event almost every damn time out. I loved this. An unidentified U.S. expert. Really? That's how Fox News is phrasing it? Okay. A U.S. expert claimed that it looked like an ISIS attack. Really? It looks like an ISIS attack? How exactly does it do that? Well, things blew up and people died. And that's apparently good enough for a U.S. expert on Fox News. Really? How? There's your evil loser, Don Boy. But speaking of terrorists, Trump went to the Middle East this past week. Not that he really knew it, and I'll get to that in a minute. He had a message for the leaders of the Middle East, which was, "You need to drive out the terrorists." Again, that's a quote. Drive out the terrorists. To where, Don? Where do you want to drive them to? To other countries? That's not going to help any. Drive them off the planet? Oh, wait, is that what your new space program is for? Making sure we have a mission to Mars by 2030 so we can just put all the terrorists on a rocket and send them to... No, that's not going to work. Don really has very few clues in what he's doing. I'll give him that he might have a couple like, ooh, look, there's an airplane. I should probably get on that. Beyond that, very few. For example, when he landed in Israel this week, one of the first things he said was he, quote, just got back from the Middle East, unquote. Don, Israel is right smack dab in the middle of the Middle East. You're still there, you ass clown. How can you not Hey, he makes my brain hurt. He really does. And then, of course, the GOP is very little better in this. There was a massive donation made to Saudi Arabia, one of those countries that people still believe helped with 9/11. Yeah, we donated billions of dollars in weapons to Saudi Arabia, who then turned around and donated about $1 billion to Ivanka Trump's foundation. Yes, because there's nothing shady about that at all.
Won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up.
Thank you, Marshall. Basically, what he did was take a lot of U.S. tax dollar money and put it in Ivanka's pocket. Maybe that's why she slapped his hand away earlier this week. Did you see that? It's a wonderful video of them getting off Air Force One, and he tries to hold her hand, and she slapped it away. That's a hint she doesn't want him either. Although, speaking of Ivanka and this whole Middle East trip, when they got to all these Middle Eastern countries, Ivanka did not wear a hijab or any type of headgear in the Middle East, despite local laws and everything that say she kind of has to. Meanwhile, when they got to the Pope in the Vatican, where they don't have those laws, she got off the plane wearing a veil. Did you notice that? Did you see the pictures of the Trump family visiting the Pope and looking like they dressed for a funeral? And how the Pope said, you really shouldn't have dressed that way, and had an awful lot of expressions when he looked at Donald Trump of, oh dear, he's still here. He hasn't gone away yet. I did love this, though. As a papal gift to the Trump family, the Pope gave Donald Trump an autographed copy of all of his scientific evidence about global climate change. Because the Pope is a scientist who studied this, he knows it's real, so he gave Trump a copy of all of his information and said, you might want to read this. Although, I'm not sure it'll help because I'm not sure Donald can read. But speaking of, Donald Trump and his geographic incapabilities, do you think he also has problems figuring out who his allies are? Because earlier this week, in the same tour, Donald Trump revealed the location of 2 nuclear submarines to President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines. This information, by the way, is classified. Yeah, classified information the president just gave to someone who may or may not be on our side. You remember when they had all the problems with Hillary Clinton allegedly doing this? Well, Donald Trump actually did. Have they done anything about it? No. Why? Trump supporters are not the brightest people on the planet. And we have actual proof of that now. There was a survey that was taken recently, the results of which came out last week. Now, a side note here, when they do surveys like this, there are test questions thrown in to test the validity. Simple questions like, hey, what state are you in? Questions they can look at the answers and know what the answer should be to test the validity of the answers they give throughout the rest of the survey. In this survey, one of the test questions brought up something very interesting. 41% of Donald Trump supporters want to bomb Agrabah.
I think it's time to say goodbye to Prince Abubu.
Now, do you know where Agrabah is? It's a trick question, and that quote was a hint. It's not real. Agrabah is where Aladdin lives. Yeah, Aladdin of the Disney movie version. Trump supporters want to bomb the fictional home of Aladdin. Unfortunately, they're serious. But speaking of Disney and the Donald, since 1993, the Walt Disney Hall of Presidents has had a display where every president spoke to the people who went through. That's kind of cool. However, now they're rolling that back to where it's only going to be Washington and Lincoln who speak to you. The purpose of that is to keep Donald Trump from talking. Now, if you want more grown-up entertainment than Disney, how about Roger Waters, the former bass player of Pink Floyd? He's doing a new tour using some of Pink Floyd's old songs, which is fine because he wrote them, or at least a lot of them. Now, there's one of the old songs called Pigs, and during this particular performance, on the big screen above the stage, there are 3 cartoon pigs. All of them now look like Donald Trump. One is wearing brightly colored lipstick, one is wearing a KKK hood, and one is actually just a pig wearing a dress that is still made up to look like Donald Trump. Why? Because the world thinks Donald Trump is an idiot. So on behalf of the world, we have one thing to say to Donald Trump today.
I'd unfriend you.
Yesterday, there was a special election in Bozeman, Montana for a vacant congressional seat. The Republicans put forth candidate Greg Gianforte, or you may know him as his WWE persona, Montana Gop. He's been accused of body slamming a reporter, because that'll win votes. Listen to this. Let me know what you think.
There's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you
Okay,
have the
speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time that came in here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Jesus. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the guardian.
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
You, the last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
Sounds to me like the WWE might have found a new champion, because I'm not sure you can win an election by doing that. Of course, they'll have to wait till he gets out of jail. Tech news, because it's time. From the world of Dubai, which seems like a completely different world, doesn't it? Because what they've just done is something that people in the States have kind of wanted for a while. Dubai has the world's first robotic police officer. That's right. RoboCop is in Dubai. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. I'm pretty sure that's not the way it works. Because we're not that good with robots yet. Even they're not. The idea here is it's a customized service robot from PAL Robotics that has a big touch screen on his chest. Now, the big touch screen allows people to report a crime or pay fines or actually just get information. RoboCop does have built-in cameras that stream video back to a police command center. But right now, really all he does is wander around and let you touch him on the chest. Hey, it's a start. Other tech news we have this week, and I'm not entirely sure I understand the naming concept here. Intel is going back to war with AMD because AMD has new processors, therefore Intel must have new processors. The new one from Intel, and I don't get this, it's called the i9, which goes along with the i3, i5, and i7 processors they've been putting out for years. Even if you're not tech savvy, you should get this, because the i9 is a 12-core processor. You don't even have to understand what that means. If it's a 12-core processor, why isn't it called the i12? If you have any ideas on why that is, or isn't in this case, drop me a note. Contact me through email, rob@thefwotshow.com, or head to the website, thefwotshow.com, and hit the buttons for Facebook or Twitter. Follow me on both. Or, you know what, you can even subscribe to the show on iTunes or the Google Play Store or Blueberry, or just listen on Village Connection Radio. While you're at the site, don't forget to check out the FWOT Shop, which has coffee cups and t-shirts and hats because they're cool. I like the logo for the show. I think it turned out nice, and it looks good on a shirt. So please support the show because I know you enjoy listening to it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten this far into the show. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you with something that could be considered irony. It could be considered karmic justice. I'm not sure which. I'll let you decide. Have you heard of a guy named Theonis Botha? Yeah, I hadn't heard of him either. He sounded like a Star Wars character, so you'd think I'd have heard of him, and yet, no. He was a safari guide in South Africa. And, as with many safari guides, oh, there's restrictions on them. Thou shalt not shoot elephants. Elephants are endangered. Shooting elephants is bad. Well, he never really listened to that and continued to shoot elephants. And this past week, he shot an elephant and killed it, which is bad. But when the elephant died, it fell over and landed on him and killed him too. Like I said, irony or karmic justice? You be the judge. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend and be safe because it's getting really weird out there.